coming up, a listening party with the synth pop group Nation of Language. Their new album is called A Way Forward. We'll hear some tracks from the album and speak with multi-instrumentalist Ian Richard Devaney and synth player Aidan Noel. That's next on All of It. Synth pop. It's a sound from the new wave era in the late 70s and early 80s that might strike you as retro. Yet when you listen to the Brooklyn-based band Nation of Language, these sultry and catchy synth pop sounds evoke the past but also somehow sound like the future, like nothing we've ever really heard before. That's a song called In Manhattan, the first track from a new album, A Way Forward, from Brooklyn trio Nation of Language. It's the band's second album, and it's infectiously reminiscent of early electronic music. It makes me want to both dance and gaze out the window at the same time. Nation of Language has a spring tour coming up. They'll be at Webster Hall on March 3rd. The band is made up of vocalist and multi-instrumentalist Ian Richard Devaney, Aidan Noel on synthesizer, and bassist Michael Supoy. And Ian and Aidan are here with us now on All of It. Hey guys, thanks for taking a little bit of time to talk to us.
Hey.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, of course. Very excited to talk to you. We just played the opening track from your new album. The song is called In Manhattan, and in it, I think listeners hear that unique retro but modern synth pop sound. And Ian, I had read the origin story for what at least partially inspired you to experiment with this sound. I love this origin story. Can you tell me about driving around New Jersey with your dad and hearing an old song and it summoning something inside of you?
Yeah, I mean, I was actually going to say, as a New Jerseyan, what a pleasure it is to be speaking to you, Matt. As, a longtime person paying attention to New Jersey politics.
Thanks, man. Yes, I covered New Jersey politics for many, many years, longer than it really was. Yes.
But yeah, so just driving around New Jersey, and the song Electricity by Orchestral Maneuvers in the Dark came on. And I, at the time I was kind of only listening to really kind of guitar punk music for the most part. And something about that song just hit me in this way where it felt so simple, and it had this kind of, punkish impreciseness to the playing. Yet they were using synthesizers, which I associated with things that were very lush and kind of clean. And it really just kind of opened my mind to, like, maybe I don't have to only make music on the guitar. Maybe I can start exploring all of these other sounds and this whole universe that is kind of synthesizers and everything that they, open up in front of you.
Yeah. And Aidan, you're the one who's making that synth sound. I mean, I've seen many of the videos, and you've got a couple of keyboards and a bunch of knobs in front of you. Can you explain a little bit for like a layperson who doesn't really understand any of this stuff, what you're doing there to make this wonderfully listenable music?
Sure. So we have a couple synths that we go back to a lot, but our favorite one is called the Moog Sub 37, and it has all these knobs, and it looks like really difficult to parse through. But once you start just with a basic song like In Manhattan, the song that you played, you can send music through it and toy with those sounds with all of the knobs and see like how what you're doing affects the waveforms of sounds. So I didn't know how to play synthesizer at all before joining this band or any instrument, but it's actually more user-friendly than you would think. I've definitely adapted to it in the last year or two.
Yeah.
And
you had no like musical experience, like you hadn't played an instrument, or just this particular one? Like how did you?
No, I hadn't played anything. But Ian was in a bind because a bunch of previous members of Nation of Language moved across the country for various reasons. And I was just saying, you know, I believe in this project. I want it to continue. If you think you can teach me how to play the synth parts, I will like join the band and do my best. And so he tried to teach me, and like a month later I played my first show, and I've loved it ever since.
Oh, incredible. I guess this would be the appropriate time to wish you guys a happy Valentine's Day, considering both it is Valentine's Day and you guys are not just bandmates, but you're also a married couple, which sort of helps explain the last story you told us. And in fact, your marriage and your wedding is really how you were able to put out your first album, right? Am I getting that story right?
Yeah. So when we got married, you know, up until then, we'd basically, you know, working essentially like service industry jobs. We would work until we could afford to go into the studio for a day and record a single. And we would just kind of go single by single. And eventually we realized, like, you know, if we take a couple of these singles and then this other chunk of songs we have, we can put this together and make a debut album. But putting together that chunk of songs, I was like, you know, that's going to require a lot of service industry work. But so we, you know, we were getting married, and kind of instead of a wedding registry full of things to request, we just were kind of like, could you maybe just give us your money? And then we took that money and we used it to go into the studio and record the album. And a bunch of people were like, what are you doing? Like, you're supposed to, you know, like go on a honeymoon or something. We still haven't been on a honeymoon.
And we really don't have any nice pots and pans.
But you have an awesome couple albums.
First album.
Right. And then you go out to, you make this album, and then you go out to start to tour it, but it's March 2020, right? And then everything shuts down.
Yeah, we were 3 shows into a tour and, you know, got the word to go home. And I mean, I really thought once it became clear that it wasn't just going to be like 2 weeks of staying at home, I was like, oh man, like, the live show has always been kind of the thing that I felt allowed us to reach new people the best, right, and kind of present the best version of ourselves. And so without that, I was like, we just like spent all of this time and money making this record. Now no one's going to hear any of this music because we can't play shows. And so the fact that it, you know, it started to connect with people, and, you know, radio stations started to play it and all of this, was really kind of mind-blowing. And we were just like locked at home. So
yeah, sitting right here basically on this couch being like, wow, I can't believe this is taking on a life of its own. And yeah, we were super grateful to everyone who helped us get that music out there and who shared it with their friends and family. And it was kind of amazing.
Yeah. And so now, well, now going on tour, it's amazing because after all this time, we can finally, you know, meet so many of our fans for the first time, because so many people only started listening to us since lockdown.
Right.
It's just been great to be able to do that.
There was something about maybe the way it was passed around during lockdown, something maybe about the sound that just worked for that moment of time that we were in. I mean, I heard about you guys from my buddy Jake, and I passed you along to so many other people, and maybe it was something about 2020 and 2021 that your first album just really just hit right. We're going to talk about that, and we're also going to talk about your new album when we come back. We'll hear more from Ian Richard Devaney and Aidan Noel from Nation of Language after a short break. Don't go anywhere. I'm Matt Katz, hosting all of it today, and we're talking to Ian Richard Devaney and Aidan Noel from the Brooklyn band Nation of Language. I have a bunch more questions for you guys, but I also want to play a track right now from your new album, A Way Forward. This song is This Fractured Mind. The synth and then the bass beat there is just so tremendous. I totally love it. But I actually am curious for a minute to ask about lyrics. Ian, we just heard the beginning of the lyrics in that song, and they are reeling from the moment I stumbled on the life we'd left behind. And later you sing lines that I just loved, like blinding lights flashing down the Garden State Parkway of your mind. Obviously love the Jersey reference there. Who wrote this song, This Fractured Mind, and who writes most of your lyrics?
Everything is written by me. And yeah, that song just kind of came from kind of dwelling on this period where I had left college to play music and had been in a band. And then that band sort of, like slowly died away. And I was just sort of like bumming around town, delivering pizzas and stuff, and wondering kind of what I was going to do, and being like, even though delivering pizza is definitely the best service industry job I've ever had, I was like, this isn't like exactly what I imagined for myself when I left school and wanted to be a musician. Like, I'm not even really doing it anymore. And so, yeah, just kind of dwelling on that period of feeling like I was stuck in a place that I hadn't envisioned myself.
Yeah. It's so evident that you have knocked around New York doing service industry jobs, as you've referenced, because the videos for your songs are so evocative of New York, and they feature so many New York images, but they're not necessarily the most beautiful. There's a barge, a smokestack. I think there was a sanitation bus depot, maybe. Aidan, you want to talk a little bit about how you shot these videos in New York? Do you have a whole crew and a whole production? Do you have to get MTA approval to go on the subway, or are you just sort of doing this on the sly and DIY?
Definitely on the sly and DIY is our motto. Some of the videos, we have a VHS camera, and we just like walk around taking footage as we're, in between errands on a day like off or whatever. But some of them we have a little crew. We did a few videos with our friend James Thompson, and he used a 16 millimeter camera, and we would just go to various parts of Brooklyn that we'd seen and thought, that's beautiful in its own ugly way, or that's interesting, or that kind of makes me feel this certain like feeling that I want to express through this video. Yeah. And then there was this one video that we did with our friend Gary Canino, and that one is the one where we most had to do it on the sly while we ran into the subway and at a stop underground, and a bunch of people are like, what's going on? As we bum rush the subway. But yeah, that one was really fun too. But yeah, they've all been very DIY and super fun to do.
I could tell. It looked like you guys were having fun in the videos. I also, though, couldn't help but hear and see a bit of critique of New York City in 2022 and some of the lyrics in the videos. There's a lyric in the song "In Manhattan." In Manhattan, you cannot have it all. Your videos feature their song "Going Out of Business" sign. Another lingered on a cancel rent sign. Do you guys have a take on this moment in New York City or Manhattan that you want to share?
Well, I mean, I think I don't even know if it's this moment so much as probably the entirety of the 31 years of my existence. But, you know, I feel like it's for in Manhattan specifically, there's this, it's kind of dealing with the sense of, you know, particularly as someone growing up in New Jersey and knowing that I always wanted to move to New York, you have this like romantic vision of it. But then you get here and like there is still that romance, but there's also just the day-to-day grind and the inaccessibility of so many things. And it's just kind of, it's not like the movie you were playing in your head, you know?
Yeah.
And so kind of coming to terms with that and embracing it in one's own way and kind of finding your own version of New York has been, you know, the best part of living here. And the bus is a crucial part of that.
The bus, yes.
Yeah. Getting familiar with the bus system.
For sure. Are you finding, you know, you said you were on the same couch now that you were on when you were still like waiting to see if you can get that first album out. And now that you're finding success and you're touring and you've got this new album out that people are loving, has that changed your situation? I mean, you're still on the same couch, but has it changed like your financial situation? I'll ask you a more specific question. My number one song on Spotify last year was Tournament from your first album, Introduction Presents. Love that song. Played it constantly in my house. So if I played that a million times in my house, are you getting a fair shake from Spotify on that? Does that help? Are you now rolling in all that good Spotify money? How does it work?
I have $1 million just from you, Matt.
You're welcome.
No, I mean, so it was like a strange, like because of the pandemic, it was a very strange transition where, you know, I was working in a restaurant in Cobble Hill in Brooklyn, Lavara, and the pandemic happened. And so then that, you know, closed for the pandemic and I went on unemployment. And kind of as unemployment was running out was when things started to feel, you know, you're never fully comfortable because I think working in so many different kinds of fields in the arts, there are cycles of, I guess like boom and bust in a way, where it's difficult to have a consistent picture of what's going on with your money. But we're now in this place where, because we've started to be able to tour again, which, you know, for most musicians is really the core of how they would make their money. It's starting to be more kind of normal. It's a weird transition for us to kind of be able to say that we are just
full-time musicians.
Yeah, full-time musicians. But there is definitely still an uncertainty about it because, you know, we were supposed to spend all of January touring in Europe, but because of COVID, that was pushed into April. And so you never know whether the thing that's on the horizon that will potentially be bringing you income is going to be pushed by, you know, 4 to 6 months.
And sadly, Spotify doesn't pay the bills.
Well, then that means that everybody should be going out to seeing you guys at Webster Hall on March 3rd or wherever else that you may be on your upcoming tour. I will certainly be coming out to see you guys. It's been a pleasure talking to you. I wish you all the most success. And I've been speaking to Ian Richard Devaney and Aidan Noel from Nation of Language. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
We're also going to leave everybody with a little bit of the song Friend Machine, which happens to be my 6-year-old son's favorite track from your first album. So here's Friend Machine. Thank you both. I'm Matt Katz, and this was all of it. I'll see you back here tomorrow.